Welcome to Deep Dive. Imagine, dedicating years of your life, pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars into a dream education.
Huge investment.
Exactly. Only to find that the pathway to your career goals might just be, well, cut off. That's the kind of looming uncertainty creating this seismic shift for thousands of Indian students looking at the U.S. education system.
It really is.
Today, we're taking a close look at this significant shift, specifically how Indian students are rethinking their aspirations to study there. This isn't just a small ripple. It feels like a major wave of change, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It impacts so many lives and, frankly, billions of dollars.
We're going to try and cut through some of the noise today, understand the core reasons behind this evolving sentiment, and importantly, what it means for you if you're considering international study.
Indeed. The landscape is shifting very rapidly. What maybe once felt like a clear, well-trodden path is now. Well, it's filled with questions and considerable risk. We'll unpack the key factors playing into this, from, complex policy debates happening in Washington to the very personal financial decisions families across India are grappling with. Hopefully give you a clearer picture of what's truly at stake.
Okay, let's dive into that. We've got some fascinating data that really caught our eye recently, an online poll by Business Standard. It reveals a really striking sentiment among Indian students. A real wake-up call, I'd say.
What did it find?
Well, the big headline is this. If the U.S. were to phase out both the optional practical training program OPT and the H-1B visa pathway.
Both of them, okay.
A staggering 78% of the students polled said they would just abandon their plans to study in the U.S. altogether.
Wow, 78%, it's huge.
It is. Think about that. Only 22% said they'd still consider going under that hypothetical scenario.
So the vast majority see those post-study work options as essential.
Absolutely essential. And to give you a sense of how widespread this feeling is, the figures on individual social platforms were even more pronounced. On X, formerly Twitter, 88.2% said no, they wouldn't go.
Nearly 9 out of 10 there.
Yeah. LinkedIn, more professional platform, right? Still 80.7% no. YouTube, 83.6% would give up their plans. Even Instagram, 78% no. It's not just one group thinking this, it's nearly unanimous.
What's truly fascinating there is the sheer consistency, isn't it, across all these different communities, different platforms.
Exactly.
This isn't some isolated opinion or just a vocal minority. It's a pretty resounding verdict from, nearly 1,200 Indian students in that poll?
That's right.
It just profoundly underscores that for so many, the decision to study abroad, especially in the U.S., isn't just about the education itself, not just the degree's prestige or the campus experience.
It's about what comes after.
Fundamentally, yes. It's about the opportunities to apply that education, get that invaluable work experience, and actually build a career path. If that next step looks shaky or disappears, well, the entire proposition changes dramatically.
That link between the education and the post-study opportunity seems absolutely vital then. So let's zero in on these crucial programs, OPT and H-1B. What exactly do they provide, and why is this uncertainty causing such alarm?
Okay, let's break it down.
First, OPT, optional practical training. It's been a cornerstone for a long time, right?
Absolutely. It allows F1 students, that's the main student visa category, to get real-world professional experience in the U.S. after they graduate. It's directly related to their field of study.
And it's not a small program, is it?
Not at all. Our data for 2024 shows nearly 200,000 participants, and crucially, about 95,000 of those were on the STEM extension.
Ah, the STEM extension. That's important.
Very. It allows students in science, tech, engineering, math fields an extra 2 years of work authorization. So instead of the standard 1 year, they get up to 3 years. That's a vital bridge from university into industry for many, especially in tech.
So, a critical pathway. You mentioned its future is in flux. Why?
Well, we're seeing some prominent figures, people like Jessica Vaughn at the Center for Immigration Studies, Joseph Edlow, who used to head USCIS. They're openly advocating for cutting back OPT or even eliminating it completely.
On what grounds?
Their arguments often center on legal concerns. They question whether OPT, which grants work authorization, really fits under an educational visa. Does it overstep the original intent?
Kind of a scope creep argument?
Sort of. And they argue it might put these F1 students in direct competition with American workers for jobs, potentially disadvantaging the domestic workforce. That's their perspective.
Okay, so there's that pressure. Anything else adding to the uncertainty?
Yes. On top of that, there are proposals from the Department of Homeland Security about moving towards fixed duration visas.
Instead of the current system.
Exactly. Right now, most F1 students have duration of status. which basically means they can stay as long as they're properly enrolled and maintaining their status. It offers flexibility.
And fixed duration would mean?
It would mean a hard end date on their visa, likely tied much more tightly to their program length. This could drastically increase the pressure to find a job or another visa sponsor within a very tight, inflexible window right after graduation.
Wow, imagine that pressure, a strict deadline the moment you graduate.
Exactly. Regardless of the job market conditions at that moment, it adds significant uncertainty to planning your life post-graduation. Makes it incredibly difficult.
Okay, so that's OPT under scrutiny. And then the next logical step for many is the H-1B visa, right? Especially for Indian graduates.
That's the main route, yes. The H-1B is the primary non-immigrant visa that allows U.S. companies to employ foreign workers in specialized occupations that require theoretical or technical expertise.
And that's also facing potential changes.
Big time. This program is also at significant risk of major reform. It's been a target of criticism for years, frankly.
From whom? What's the criticism?
Well, if you connect it to the bigger picture, it's drawn substantial criticism from various political and economic figures. You had the Trump administration, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick more recently, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Several have called the program, sometimes quite bluntly, a scam.
A scam. That's strong language.
It is. The core argument from critics is that they believe it disadvantages American workers. They allege some companies exploit it to replace U.S. workers with lower-paid foreign workers, or to facilitate outsourcing, especially in IT. They argue it depresses wages in certain sectors.
So the claim is it undermines the domestic labor market.
That's the essence of the criticism, yes.
But surely the industries that rely heavily on H-1B, like tech, have a counter-argument.
Oh, absolutely. A strong one. Companies, particularly in tech and other specialized fields, argue the H-1B is essential for them. They say it allows them to access highly specialized skills and talent that are often in short supply domestically.
So it's about competitiveness.
Exactly. They contend it lets them stay globally competitive, drive innovation, and actually create more jobs overall by enabling growth. Their fear is that restricting H-1B visas could force them to move R&D or even operations overseas, which would ultimately harm the U.S. economy.
So a really complex debate with huge stakes on both sides.
Precisely. And that's why the potential for major changes creates such a massive question mark for anyone, especially an international student, planning their career path after studying in the U.S.
It really crystallizes things. It's clear these two pathways, OPT first, then potentially H-1B, are incredibly significant. We saw a quote from Ritesh Jain, co-founder of Launched Study Abroad Consultancy. He put it perfectly, I thought. He said, "The concern is real. For many Indian students, the value of a U.S. degree is tied not only to education, but also to post-study work opportunities through OPT and H-1B. If these pathways shrink, the return on investment looks weaker."
That just nails it, doesn't it? That's the core sentiment right there, the ROI calculation.
And this is where it gets really, really impactful for you, the listener, the potential student, or their family. This isn't just some abstract policy debate. It's a massive financial decision, a huge emotional commitment, too.
Absolutely.
Indian students, collectively, spend billions of dollars every single year on U.S. education. They're a significant economic force, but behind that number are individual families making enormous personal investments.
The scale is staggering.
Our data, looking at University Living's Indian Student Mobility Report for 2023-2024, it lays out just how staggering. An estimated $7.2 billion just on tuition annually.
$7.2 billion. Wow.
Plus another $2.9 billion on housing, $2.4 billion on general living expenses annually.
That's over $12 billion flowing into the U.S. economy just from Indian students each year.
Exactly. And if you break that down to the individual level, for most students, you're looking at tuition fees anywhere from, say, $30,000 to $60,000 per year.
Just for tuition?
Just tuition. Then add housing, $1,100 to maybe $4,300 a month, depending heavily on the city, of course.
Right. Big difference between, say, New York and somewhere more rural.
For sure. And then living costs on top of that, another $900 to $1,200 monthly. These are not small sums. For many families, this is life-changing money. It often comes from years of savings, maybe family loans, significant educational debt.
Which highlights precisely why the absence or even just the uncertainty of those post-study work opportunities hits so hard. It directly impacts the perceived return on that huge investment.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine a student, let's call her Priya. She takes out a massive loan, maybe her family even puts up their savings, for her master's in, say, data science in the U.S. Her entire plan, her family's expectation, probably revolves around getting that crucial OPT work experience afterwards.
To start paying back loans, gain skills.
Exactly. And then hopefully securing an H-1B to really build her career and, frankly, recoup that initial investment. If those pathways become unclear or seem like they might disappear, suddenly that massive financial risk looks terrifying.
It changes the whole calculation.
Completely. We saw one user comment online that I think just perfectly encapsulates this feeling. They said, without OPT H-1B, the ROI of a U.S. degree becomes hard to justify if you're not that rich. High cost, no industry exposure does not make sense.
Simple as that. High cost, no guarantee of industry exposure.
It really boils down to that very practical calculation for many. And it's not just about the immediate salary they might miss out on during OPT. It's losing those invaluable network connections you build on the job.
Right, the contacts.
It's losing the chance to apply what you learned in a real-world setting, gaining those industry-specific skills that make you much more marketable long-term. That's the real hit to the ROI for countless students, that lost career acceleration.
That financial burden combined with this uncertainty, it must create immense pressure, immense anxiety. How is that translating into actual changes in student behavior?
Well, you see it in the sentiment. Another comment we saw really captures the emotional side of this. Someone said, who wants to go to a country that is so openly hostile to all immigrants now?
That perception of hostility must play a role too.
I think it does. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet for students. They represent real anxieties, real fears about justifying this huge personal and financial gamble without a clear path forward. The emotional weight, that feeling of vulnerability, you can't really overstate it. Students aren't just picking a university anymore. They feel like they're choosing a future, and they want that future to feel reasonably secure.
So with these growing doubts about the U.S. pathways, the high stakes, what are students actually doing? Are they just giving up on studying abroad?
Not necessarily giving up, but definitely broadening their horizons. Our analysis shows they're actively exploring alternatives. Countries like Germany, Canada, the UK, they're becoming increasingly attractive destinations.
Why those countries specifically?
What's fascinating here is why they stand out. It goes back to certainty. They tend to offer clearer, more predictable post-study work or residency routes.
Ah, so they provide the stability the U.S. currently seems to lack in this area.
Exactly. For students making this enormous investment of time and money, knowing there's a reasonably predictable pathway after graduation is incredibly appealing. Take Germany, for instance. Strong in engineering, research.
Right.
They offer something called a job seeker visa right after graduation. It lets students stay for up to 18 months specifically to look for work in their field. That provides a clear, defined window to transition.
Okay, that sounds quite structured. What about Canada?
Canada's become very popular. Their post-graduation work permit, the PGWP, can allow stays of up to 3 years, depending on the length of study. And crucially, work experience gained on a PGWP often counts towards points for permanent residency.
So it integrates into a longer-term immigration strategy.
Yes, quite smoothly often. It's part of their broader strategy to attract and retain international talent. Australia also has fairly attractive post-study work options, often tied to study duration and field. These countries are actively positioning themselves as welcoming, offering that stability that directly addresses the anxieties we've been talking about.
Those definitely sound like compelling alternatives. But are there downsides? Trade-offs students might face if they choose, say, Germany or Canada over the U.S. It can't be a perfect switch for everyone, surely.
That's an excellent point. No, it's not universally perfect. While they offer more certainty on the post-study front, there are indeed trade-offs. In Germany, for example, language is often a big one.
Needing to speak German.
Right. While many master's programs might be taught in English, breaking into the job market and just daily life can be significantly harder without strong German language skills. That's a barrier for many.
Okay. In Canada?
Canada. Well, the pathway to residency might be clearer, but the job market in certain highly specialized fields might actually be smaller than the vast U.S. market. And practically speaking, the climate can be a major adjustment for students from India.
True, the UK.
The UK has its own set of post-study work rules, the graduate route visa, which is currently more stable than the uncertainty around OPT. But the overall immigration system still requires careful navigation, and the cost of living, especially in London, is very high. So it's not simply about picking another country off a list.
No, not at all.
It's about finding the right fit for the individual. Considering cultural adjustment, whether your specific degree will be easily recognized, job prospects in your niche, and of course the overall cost, which varies hugely.
Given this really complex, evolving global picture then, for you listening, or maybe someone you know, who's right in the middle of considering international study, what's the strategic advice? What should they be thinking about now to best position themselves?
That's the crucial question, isn't it, for future planning? Our insights point to a few key recommendations. First, really prioritize programs that build highly transferable, globally relevant skills.
Skills that travel well, basically.
Exactly. Think beyond just one country's job market. Focus on competencies that are in demand everywhere, things like AI, renewable energy tech, data science, specialized healthcare fields, skills that aren't tied just to Silicon Valley or Wall Street.
Okay, focus on transferable skills. What else?
Secondly, and this is critical, diversify your plans. Seriously, don't put all your eggs in the U.S. basket, assuming things will work out like they used to.
Spread the risk.
Precisely. This means researching and maybe even applying to programs across different countries. Understand the specific post-study work rules for each potential destination. Canada, Germany, Australia, maybe even places in Asia or elsewhere in Europe.
Look beyond the traditional options.
Yes. Consider destinations that currently offer more transparent, more stable pathways to work and maybe even residency. It also might mean exploring different types of programs, like hybrid models combining online learning with shorter campus stints, which could potentially lower costs and reduce visa dependency.
That really underscores it, doesn't it? As the outlook for that traditional U.S. student-to-worker path seems, well, dimmer, or at least more uncertain. The need to broaden your horizons, think strategically, and be adaptable is more critical than ever before.
It's about empowering yourself with choices, building resilience right into your career plans from the start.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the aspiring international student, or maybe just someone trying to make sense of the global education scene?
We've definitely seen a clear, you might say undeniable shift.
That once almost uncontested allure of a U.S. education, particularly for Indian students, it's wavering. And it seems largely driven by this immense uncertainty around those vital post-study work opportunities, OPT and H-1B.
Absolutely. The huge financial commitment, the emotional investment involved, it makes that return on investment calculation incredibly important. And if the path to realizing that return looks blocked or uncertain,
then exploring countries with clearer, more transparent pathways just makes rational sense.
it does. So the key takeaway really is the absolute necessity for an informed, adaptable, and importantly diversified strategy if you're planning to study abroad now.
You need to understand these policy shifts, understand the financial implications.
Deeply. It's paramount to making a decision that truly aligns with your long-term career goals, your life goals. It's about making a choice that aims to secure your future, not just tick the box of getting a foreign degree.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into what's really a rapidly evolving landscape for international education, especially for students from India looking at the U.S.
A lot to consider.
Indeed. All the best, and we will meet again with another important matter again.